I think one of the only real surprises with Pokemon Legends Z through A is that Nintendo and Game Freak aren't selling this for $80, especially considering just a couple of months ago Nintendo CEO went on full-on defense of their whole varying pricing model, but no, still $70 for what feels like a game that should be under $30 at this point. But specifically, the Pokemon franchise has been mired in controversy the last decade or so. I mean, I looked at Sword and Shield, the whole Dexit controversy, with the limiting of certain amount of Pokemon that were added to the game. A lot of fans were extremely upset by that. Nintendo, Game Freak, they apologized for it, said that they're going to do better, they love this franchise, and they're trying to make the best product possible, and everybody kind of scoffed at that because nobody really believes it. There was also some controversy with Arceus. It was a little less so because I think Arceus was enough of an upgrade that people were mostly happy, but the graphics was the thing that a lot of people pointed out. The fact that these open worlds just look dated. They look like they're from the PS2 GameCube era, and that is a complaint that has only continued even with this newer installment. But things were really exploded with Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. That's when we saw user reviews go down the toilet. People were mocking the images that were coming out from the game, how barren the world was, the graphics, and many of the game mechanics that just feel like they're from 2004. That's just not good enough in this modern age, and Nintendo has apologized. That was one thing that they did with Scarlet and Violet. They apologized for the performance issues and the graphical bugs that people were running into. They again said, we're going to do better, but everybody again just kind of scoffed at that because they know better. They know that this company can't be trusted, but unfortunately, what it comes down to is this. It is just the fact that these games just are massive sellers. Pokemon is a behemoth. It's up there with Call of Duty, EAFC, NBA 2K. Those staple franchises that really can do no wrong. Like, what I mean by that is that no matter what they do, no matter the controversy, they still end up selling millions upon millions of units. And specifically with Scarlet and Violet, it was pointed out that the game sold, as of I think it is 2025, almost 27 million sales. That is truly insane, and that just shows you why Nintendo and Game Freak continue to get away with what I consider the bare minimum with what is probably gaming's biggest franchise. And that's why in 2024, when a little experience from Pocket Pair called Palworld started exploding on Steam, selling 15 million units on Steam in its debut month or so, that got me excited, a little bit encouraged, because competition is good for the industry. We see that this year with Call of Duty. Battlefield is finally back. Battlefield 6 looks like it's a very fun experience, and it has caused Call of Duty to be, they have to react to it, and they have. They've taken down skill-based matchmaking despite things that they've said in the past, the excuses that they've given, no more disbanding lobbies, and overall it looks like the Call of Duty community, they are getting a better product because there's a competitor there. Palworld, I thought that may have been a representation of good times to come, because Nintendo, Game Freak were going to realize that they couldn't continue to put out the slop that they've been putting out. Unfortunately, though, the reaction that they gave to Palworld was maybe a little less surprising considering the reputation of being very litigious, and yeah, that they've been going after Palworld with lawsuits, going after them with their patents, and causing Palworld to have to destroy various game mechanics and alter it just to satisfy the courts and such, and that is unfortunate, but it also has not come in the way of bringing a better product to players because Pokemon hasn't really improved. They've of course grabbed a couple of game mechanics that Palworld really popularized, but unfortunately we're still getting the crappy nonsense that we've been getting for the last number of years. And we even had developers, industry veterans such as a former Capcom designer, Yoshiki Okamoto, sparking backlash in Japan by saying Palworld has crossed the line that should not be crossed. And yes, he was defending Nintendo here, saying that they crossed a line that should not be crossed, and I don't want the world to become a place where this kind of thing is acceptable. And what he means by that, it is currently a game, Palworld, that's being sued, so it's unacceptable. By playing the game, you are supporting it, so please don't buy it. And then he compared the developer to the Mafia, the Yakuza, which many people took issue with. But it really is just bizarre to me, the stranglehold that Nintendo has over their fan base, and really just the overall gaming community, in which so many people will defend them putting out experiences that really have barely evolved over the course of the last couple of decades. In my mind, that is totally unacceptable, and that's why all backlash that is being sent Nintendo and Game Freak's way, I just think it's totally deserved at this point. And that's why it's not too surprising that Pokemon Legends Z through A is getting fine reviews, fine from critics. Even when you check a lot of these reviews, it's a lot of like, yeah, this isn't that great of an experience, but it's still better than what we've been getting. And again, it's just the bare minimum that this franchise is getting away with. And I really do think that a lot of these critic reviews are, if this was a different developer, a different publisher, they'd be singing a different tune. And yeah, some of the reviews, like I said, GameSpot's Pokemon Legends Z through A review of Battle Revolution. It successfully translates its iconic battle system to real-time, but its visuals and presentation leave a lot to be desired. Eurogamer, a joyful proof of concept, but don't call it a comeback yet, under development. Lumio City could do with work, but Pokemon Legends Z through A is a much more tightly focused and delightfully goofy return to better form, at least by modern Pokemon standards. Again, it's this last sentence that I think it really is striking to me about how many, journalists and just people that work in this industry view Nintendo and view Pokemon. And again, if this was somebody else, Call of Duty and any of these other franchises, I just don't think that you'd be hearing the same thing here. And the scores, I do think, would be drastically different. Gfinity, a trip to Lumio City that feels rather underwhelming, still a 7 out of 10. I find this totally bizarre with the many criticisms that are constantly brought up within these pieces, in which it almost feels like they're scared to give Nintendo worse review scores. Gene Park, shout out to him, he was probably one of the most critical. He said Lumio City is too much of a flat wallpaper for me to enjoy. And he goes on to bring up, he actually has screenshots saying, I took on my review, I can't stand looking at the same window textures across the one location in the whole game. Pokemon is supposed to be a grand adventure, not a closed loop of flat visual design, and yes, still really, really fun gameplay. And that is kind of the core thing. The gameplay is overall pretty fun with a lot of these newer installments. It's just everything else around it, little less so. And yeah, he points out winter textures repeat in one area and then in another. And you can call that is laziness. It is absolutely laziness. Now, for those hopeful that Pokemon Legends Z through A isn't going to be a massive seller, this controversy, this outrage is going to contribute to lower sales, well, so far they're not as hot as they've been before. The UK charts show this, as sales are almost 50-50 across Switch and Switch 2. Launch sales 50% lower than Arceus, and that's rather interesting. But it's also worth mentioning that it's still comfortably #1 in the UK physical charts, and it's still a massive seller, a massive behemoth compared to the rest of this video game industry, which again just shows you how massive this franchise is, and how even when they're having an off year or things aren't exactly going the hottest as they've been in the past, it's still #1 in the charts. Now, it is worth mentioning, though, for those just understanding how much work and how much of a budget that this entry has, you can compare it to some of the other in this industry. You have like a Call of Duty experience that is up there, $700 million they've spent on their yearly installment. Former Nintendo employees recently revealed that Pokemon Legends Z through A only needs to sell 200,000 units to break even. What that means is that it has an incredibly low budget, so low that it likely means that the budget is around $13 to $14 million. And there were some reactions to this. One of those I just strongly disagree with. Somebody saying, one of the biggest issues in gaming as a whole is the overspending on game development. Now, I agree that Pokemon should use more of its budget for its games, but it feels weird that we're slapping a studio for making a game on a small budget. Again, this is the biggest fucking franchise in gaming. They're going to sell probably 20 to 30 million units, make over $1 billion, and they're investing less than $15 million. And the product isn't obviously, it's not a 10 out of 10. It really is bare minimum. I'm not a big graphics guy. I don't really care about stuff like that. But the open world, the environmental design of these games is so lacking that I genuinely think it is that they want to deliver the bare minimum, and they won't consider going, improving or upgrading until they actually see a massive dip in sales, and then immediately people will give praise, even if they just do the bare minimum for the next title, or just like they bring the PS2 textures to the PS3. I think you need to understand that Nintendo Game Freak, this is a deliberate decision by them to make that budget that low. And yes, I do think it is totally unacceptable to have it that low, especially considering what it represents for gaming entirely. And I'm really not here for the argument of Game Freak and Nintendo. They're doing the best they can. This is the resources that they have allocated, blah, 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 blah. We've seen, just based a couple of months ago, evidence of what they can produce when they actually care. And that was Beast of Reincarnation, shown at the Xbox Game Showcase. And you know what? The one thing that many people were praising? The action, the design, the overall environments. It looked beautiful, and Pokemon fans were wondering, where the hell is that type of game for us? We've been waiting for it for decades now. And yeah, PC Gamer, Game Freak reminds us that it can be, well, it is more than Pokemon with Beast of Reincarnation, a one-person, one-dog action RPG about fighting robots and corrupted beasts in post-apocalyptic Japan. And this just brings us to what's happening with Pokemon Legends Z through A right now. Even the Switch 2 can't make Pokemon look good, as fans compare Legends Z through A to a PS2 game. Again, those complaints that were happening with Sword and Shield and other entries over the years, it has continued with this new entry that is just released, and these are some of the videos that are going viral right now. This is one on TikTok in which, look, it's a graphical mess. There's those technical issues that, you know, Nintendo apologized for years ago, but unfortunately, they still continue. And this is a $70 premium experience that people are paying for. And here we have another video.
Okay. In a game based wholly in a city, you have to make the city feel good. And I'm like, my immersion is being killed when I'm walking through an...
Again, with this video, it brings up a point. Immersion and a big city. It's not just about the graphics, it's about making it feeling, you know, living, real. They can do that with the other things that surround the environments. But Nintendo Game Freak, they don't want to do that because that requires more time, more work.
Alleyway, and there's two people sat right here. Oh, like, are they at a cafe? I don't even know, because it's the PNG window that I can't even see through. You know what I mean?
And this is just the state of these experiences here in 2025, unfortunately. And people continue to eat this stuff up. And there's other videos. Here's another one. This will be $70 plus tip plus tax. And yeah, here's a video of it. This is the experience people are... It's going to sell 20, 30 million units. And look, it's barely functional. Oh my... And then there's the glitches and stuff that these games have become notorious for, that they apologized for years ago. And there's many more criticisms, more complaints. This is another massive one. They won't even hire voice acting for these games. My God, how cheap it's gotten. This is an actual... It's supposed to be like a band, I guess, playing. They didn't even hire anybody to sing a song or anything. It looks so bad. One of the most embarrassing moments I've ever experienced in a video game. I genuinely cringed with this cutscene. This is the biggest media franchise in the world. This is inexcusable for Gen 10. It needs to have voice acting. And that'll maybe be the one new thing that they add with the next title. And people will be satisfied until they aren't, and then they'll add another little mechanic. That's how it goes with this company. That's the only thing that they'll do. And another person, here's a couple more of these scenes. They're still doing it like this, and it's really strange. Like, again, if you're comparing this to an indie, a small developer, or anything, I would understand. Like, okay, maybe this makes sense. But this is fucking Nintendo. This is Pokemon. This is a premium title. Yeah, totally immersive there. Well, definitely. And yeah, that's the whole cutscenes. That's the whole entire game is like this. And some people eat this up. Some people love it. I don't understand it. Yeah, those are the cutscenes, and we've had articles coming from Polygon. Legends Z through A has fans begging for legit voice acting. That is just one of many mechanics that should be in these newer titles, especially if they're going to be charging $70, and probably with newer titles in the future it'll be $80. We have other things people are pointing out. It's also the dialogue. It's just, some of it's really cringy. I'm sick and tired of this life. I just want to smell Pokemon. Almost seems like it's AI generated. Hey, for water type moves, do you think Pokemon use their sweat or other bodily fluids? It's so weird. Like, it's funny, I guess. If I'm upset, giving my partner's Pokeball a little squeeze helps. Another one. I've been cleaning up the droppings of wild Pokemon. Okay, that's the quality of the writing here. I guess in these modern times, it's also It's just embarrassing, really. And then look, it's not even just that this game is $70, because it isn't that. It's actually over $100 if you want the full experience. And yes, this was weeks ago it was announced, in which fans were lashing out over Legend Z through A's hefty tax on Mega Evolution. And as this article from IGN summarizes, Nintendo back in September, they had a direct announcing Mega Dimension, a $30 DLC that includes additional story content and allows fans to encounter 2 new Mega Evolutions, Mega Raikou X and Mega Raikou Y. 3 other Mega Evolutions were also confirmed, with small print revealing that these will only be available post-launch as rewards for completing an online ranked battles, which require a Nintendo Switch Online subscription. Goes on to mention, with Pokémon Legends Z through A already $70 on Switch 2, fans were quick to note that the $30 Mega Dimension DLC announced weeks before the game's launch and available to pre-order already pushes the price of owning every new Mega Evolution for $100. And on top of that, the need to have an active Nintendo Switch Online subscription only adds to the costs involved, so yeah, it is well over $100. And with each of the 3 granted over subsequent in-game seasons, players will need to keep their Switch Online active for multiple months and win ranked battles to unlock the lot. And as some users said, Pokemon Heart Gold was $34 when I was 8. Adjusted for inflation, that's $50, which is like $70 cheaper than all that. What the fuck is this? And that's a great point to make. This should not be the damn norm. It's disgusting and money hungry. I'm getting the Switch 2 version, there's the problem right there, and not getting the DLC. I'll watch others play. And then rightfully, people pointed out some of the other trendsetters, Game of the Year contenders this year that have not cost that much. Other fans pointed to the recent $20 cost of beloved Hollow Knight Silksong, or $50 Clair Obscure Expedition 33, or $30 Hades 2 to highlight how much the DLC cost. For $100 of this currency, you can play 3 Games of the Year contenders or 1 Pokemon game. And that's correct point. But even with the trailers for Pokemon Legends Z through A, we're seeing some of that backlash. But again, it is pretty split. We're seeing many of the comments calling this out. While that they're still selling GameCube games in 2025, it doesn't get more low budget than that. Gotta love $70 game with a $30 of DLC announced before launch, which again, they cut that content to sell it at that price point. Very much believe that. Game Freak and EA could be good brothers. The town looks so empty. Yeah, it goes on and on, with many criticizing the state of this franchise. Pokemon fans would pay $80 for some college student's capstone project made in Unity if it had Pikachu slapped on it, and so I think there is some truth to that, honestly. But look, there's many people eating this up, many people praising the experience. If you enjoy it yourself, I am totally fine with that. I just think that people that neglect to highlight the fact that this franchise isn't doing enough, that's my core issue with this. Legends Z through A is pretty fun, but it's kind of hard to recommend to other people who aren't Pokemon slop enjoyers like me, because it is still not enough to justify that price tag. I totally agree with that perspective. Another individual, Z through A is the most fun I've had in a Pokemon game since the original Legends. The bar for this franchise is low, and I really thought this one would be skip for me, but after 5-ish hours, I'm glad I gave it in a bot. And anyway, and then some people tuning out the outrage, the controversy surrounding this title, saying la la la, can't hear you, I'm having too much fun. And again, I've said it before, if people enjoy a game, more power to you, but also understand that you should be getting a much better product than what's actually being delivered. Another individual highlighting the divide in opinions on Z through A, it's crazy, apparently the game is either one of the best Pokemon games ever made, or solely responsible for ruining people's lives. Another account saying, just finish the game, it is entirely indefensible, you are not a human if you think it is good. Another person saying they beat it, and my god man, the gameplay, the music, the story, the art direction, all of it, each and every second of it, was complete dog shit from beginning to end. I'm never touching a product from these companies ever again, my god. But look, I think this really speaks to the truth about the state of this franchise and what to expect moving forward. This is modern Pokemon, and there's no reason to expect it to get better. As a Gen 1 player to Sword and Shield, every game since Pokemon X and Y has been on the decline in my opinion. I tried out Sword and Shield and felt like it was so lackluster I skipped Scarlet and Violet and tried out Legends ZA, and my conclusion is that this is just how Pokemon is now. I think there's a group of players who love the old 2D pixel Pokemon. I am part of that group, and I've been wishing for a game that would be comparable to those, but the facts are this game is probably going to sell crazy numbers. Several people who actually like Legends ZA and are completely happy with it. I think after playing ZA, I realized that this is the new direction of Pokemon, and if I don't like it, then I just need to move on. But I just don't think that that is enough to really persuade myself and many others from really giving to this company with backlash and calling them out and making them feel that pressure to do better. And that is really the argument that I make here, because I don't think you're going to convince the masses that they're, to not buy these Pokemon experiences, but you can definitely call out Nintendo and hurt them in terms of review scores, and also make sure critics are holding these companies accountable, because so far I don't think Nintendo has been held accountable at all from reviewers. And you can see that almost within these reviews, where they almost are sounding like they want to give a lower score, but they won't go to that extent. And yeah, right now we are seeing on Metacritic users are giving it to them, as it has a negative score on Metacritic. Legends Z through A called worst Pokemon release yet, and scathing user reviews dragging the score down to a 4.3. And yeah, this is the Nintendo Switch version. Game runs horrible for them, charging full price on the worst system. The story is nothing. The gameplay gets stale at a point and ends up being mashing moves of cooldown and dodging. Giving exactly 1 point because my brain still reacts positively when I see Pikachu. And 2 out of 10 for character design, the new battling feature. Z through A is outrageously overpriced for what you actually... blank graphics are outdated. The city offers barely any variety, and everything feels flat and dull. And yeah, these reviews are scathing, and there's obviously some people that eat this stuff up. Nintendo haters malding, many zeros. I don't really understand why people bootlick these billion-dollar companies, but if you want to, I guess you can. People are doing it here on this website. The Switch 2 review scores are a little bit better. It's still pretty much the same thing. 0, 1, low scores out of 10, and many people saying the game has great characters. Unfortunately, that's about all with the game. The graphics are a near step up from Scarlet and Violet. It feels small, though incredibly small. It is 2025. This game has lost the entire premise of what Pokemon is. Many critics, many individuals blasting them on social media. A lot more posts. Like I said, it's very divided right now. Hot take, if you shit on people when you are upset about Pokemon Z through A quality, and you accept this pile of slop and give them your money anyway, you're not a real Pokemon fan. If you were, you would want to see them improve. Another account saying the problem with Pokemon games is that they're objectively indefensible from a technical and graphical standpoint. Z through A has a clear flaw, and we all know what it is. The map, flat buildings, fake windows, cheap textures. It's awful, truly indefensible, and it is not new. We've seen the same technical issues in every recent entry like Arceus and Scarlet/Violet. Another person, well, the same one, Legends Gaming, saying the company you're defending is making BS patents trying to take down an indie studio that made a monster collector that is better than the last couple of games. Not only that, but then you had the nerve to make their game play like Palworld's combat-wise, minus your MC shooting monsters, and did it way worse. $30 versus $70, by the way. And yeah, the comparisons between Palworld and Pokemon Legends Z through A have been extensive on social media, especially the last couple months, long before the release that's happening now. And this would be an example of it when they announced their battle catching system, which indeed does look very similar to what Palworld delivered, now about a year or two ago. And yeah, no wonder they sued Palworld. Look at this, LOL. If I didn't know this was Pokemon, I would think it's a cheap knockoff. And more comments, another individual saying, try to pinpoint where the Z through A Pokemon hate is coming from, and I think part of it is people that don't play Pokemon, and this is some of the defense that I've been seeing on social media, and it really is mind-boggling, but it's not surprising with how defensive some people are of this brand, or at least that other games more than Pokemon want this hyper-realistic PS5 game style, but literally the majority of Pokemon fans don't want this, and I don't think people are calling for like ray-trace Pokemon. I just think the world, the environments, they should be having a lot more going on. They should feel more immersive, lively, and yeah, the below screenshot of their AI, this isn't better. Just because it looks prettier, there needs to be a lot more going on within this. And yeah, it's the comparison. This is what it looks like right now. It really is that bad. Like, the graphics do need to get better, but there's so much more with the overall design that has to be modernized. And right now, it just doesn't seem like Nintendo, Game Freak, the Pokemon Company are at all interested in any of that. And another person, they just list off so many different issues with the game. Black loading times of 2 to 4 seconds between each action, hideous building textures with no depth, invisible walls galore, no jumping but awful parkour, visually hideous with no artistic direction. And yeah, the art design, art direction, I really do think it isn't being criticized enough. Only one setting throughout the entire game, an endless 4 to 6 hour tutorial, uninteresting dialogue, visual bug displaying lines on overly texturized elements, capped at 60 FPS on a console, capable of 120. And there's many more criticisms that are mentioned here, and many users also saying it takes less than 7 7 minutes to run the circumference of the map in Pokemon Legends ZA. Very small experience for that premium price point, and I think Screen Rant really summarizes my overall perspective on this franchise and Z through A. It isn't bad, but it's everything wrong with modern Pokemon. And although I think I would argue that this is bad. Pokemon Legends Z through A is an exceptionally average game, and that really truly hurts. It isn't just its bland, uninspired visuals that lack the character charm and style of the older Pokemon titles, nor is it the lifeless environments that feature a smattering of motionless NPCs, shop-lacking interiors, and copy and pasted buildings with JPEG windows. It isn't even the lack of new Pokemon or the game's fixation on Mega Evolutions, which aren't even a new mechanic. It's the fact that one central innovation is a watered-down imitation of Xenoblade Chronicles combat. It is that Pokemon Legends Z through A took no risks with its setting, offering yet another disappointing narrative packed with endless unskippable tutorials that players who have been enjoying these games since the very first generation have to slog through. And that is really going at Nintendo, and this is the type of energy I need to see from more critics. This is the thing I want to see online, because I want a better product. I do like this franchise. I do. I played some of these games, but the problem is that it just hasn't evolved to enough that I feel that it's worth investing my time or money in it. And unfortunately, it seems like a lot of Pokemon fans will eat up this franchise no matter what it delivers. And that is one thing that Nintendo, Game Freak, the Pokemon Company continue to exploit. And honestly, I think people should be upset with that. And the same way that EA has treated Madden and their FIFA franchise, or EAFC. Same thing with Activision and Call of Duty. All of these staple franchises. They need to be better. They need to face backlash. And they need true competitors. And fortunately, Nintendo kind of did get that with the form of Pal World. But instead of doing better for gamers, they just decided to sue their competitor into the ground, all while operating with a business-as-usual mentality that does not at all get the outrage it deserves. Pokemon Legends Z through A is a great representation of everything that is wrong with this brand these days, and I fully expect nothing to change. Anyway, what do you make of Pokemon Legends Z through A? Have you decided to check it out or not? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below, but thank you for watching. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this video, or if you found any informative value. Consider subscribing for more videos like this, and I'll see you later.